Good evening.
Hi, good afternoon/evening, everyone.
Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. We'll be giving person another 3 minutes before we start, okay?
Noted. Thank you, Chair.
Once our first presenter joins the meeting, I will start.
Thank you, Chair.
Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Just some housekeeping rules. For those of you that will be needing captions, you can go to more and select captions, and then you can put it in whatever language that you may desire. So to start, today we are fortunate to be Today, I have the esteemed pleasure to welcome each of you here to our first Rotaract District 7020 training of the year. Today, we are very fortunate to be joined by two remarkable speakers, each from the district, from distinct fields, yet both united by a passion for leadership that transforms and inspires. Thank you all for being here. I look forward to having a very productive and empowering session together. Welcome once again to Rotaract District 7020's first training of the year. Now, I will call on, just a moment, District Rotaract Fundraising Chair, Ursulina, to do the four-way task and grace.
Good afternoon, everyone. We'll start with the four-way test. Of all the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? For our grace, O God and giver of all good, we thank thee for our daily food. May Rotary friends and Rotary ways help us to serve thee all our days.
Thank you, Ursulina. Now, I will call on DRR Mikhail with a message.
Everyone, good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are. I just want to thank everyone for making it to this training session today. I want you to know that this is one of many opportunities we'll have to meet together in a setting like this. This is one of many opportunities where, as a district, we'll be aiming to provide you with the training and the resources necessary to carry out your tasks throughout the Rotaract year. So it's a very good way to kick off the year. We are looking forward to supporting you very much. And I am very optimistic. I'm very happy. I'm looking forward to this training session today. So with that, welcome again. Thank you for being here. And I hand over back to Chair Nadika.
Thank you, DRR, for that. Now, I will call on ADRR Root to introduce our first presenter for this evening.
Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker for today. Richard Gregoire, born in nation's capital, Quintac, however, grew up in Providenciales, Turks and Caicos. She later moved to Boston to finish high school. She then moved to Florida, where she completed her undergrad in accounting and finance. She thereafter moved back to Turks and Caicos and continued her studies online at the University of Liverpool. There, she completed a master's degree in international finance and accounting with a minor in hospitality. Shortly after, she was accepted to Walden University to pursue a Doctor of Business Administration with a concentration in hospitality management. Rachel is a full-time hotelier with over 12 years of luxury hotel management experience. Prior to commencing a tenure with the Ritz-Carlton, she worked at an all-inclusive luxury resort that sat over 90 acres of land with 1,200 plus staff. She is now presently employed with the Wisconsin as the Assistant Director of Residence, which successfully led a team to, to successful owner and employee engagement scores. In addition, she became the president of the Wisconsin Community Footprint, inspiring and impacting the lives of others within the communities in which they are operating. Taking Caicos Islands. A passion for both a leadership role and community outreach are few of the aspects that lead Rachel to becoming the Wisconsin First Leader of the Year 2022 and the first ever residential winner of the G.W. Marriott Award. She is the mother of a beautiful daughter and an amazing son who is resting well in heaven. She is an author who has now successfully published 3 books, 2 children books, and an adult book. The first book is The Great by Rachel Gregory. The Great, an early chapter book for children. The aim within this picture book was display one way grief can be handled with creativity and hope by using a forever star to always remember their loved one. Gracie and Aro's Wallet. This book is the first of a 3 book series that will focus on savings, entrepreneurial spirit, business, and investment in the most kids-friendly way, teaching children to dream big and work hard for all that they desire. Cry Then by Boss Up, an adult nonfiction promoting hope to adults in the midst of adversity, showing them how the mind works in the midst of grief, accepting the truth, then busting up after making peace with their loss. As an author and leader, Rachel believes that one should not allow the adversity to defeat them. She inspires others to find hope in the midst of adversity and be great always. After losing a son to extreme prematurity, Rachel's dream is to ultimately launch a premature foundation here in the Turks and Caicos. Please join me in giving in a warm welcome to our speaker, Rachel Gregor.
Good evening, Rotaractors. How are you? It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you. I remember my days as a Rotaractor. Oh, those were the best days ever. So again, I am honored, absolutely honored to be here sharing and training. I didn't share a presentation because this is a training session. And I had to remember it wasn't a presentation. So I had to stop with the presentation and remember this is a training session. So this is going to be a very, very, very interactive session. So I hope everyone have their pen, their paper, and if you don't, I'll give you a minute to grab it. Because again, we are here to train, we are here to pour into each other, we are here to pass on the baton of greatness and ensuring that we all lead with greatness that's in us, is in us. And it's just a matter of how do we execute it? How do we lead with passion, with purpose? And we all have different genres of what leadership is. We all have different versions of what leadership is. All have different outlooks. So it's a matter of what is leadership to us, you individually, me as a person, you as an individual. What is it to you? So it's just going through again some of my notes. First question, obviously, what is leadership to some of you? Again, this is going to be a very interactive session. So I could turn on the mics and respond back. What does leadership mean to some of you? Not all at once.
I can answer. To me, leadership is how you not only, leadership is how you teach others to grow and to do their best, and how you assist them in the best way possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any more takers? What does leadership mean to you? Miss Morris, proceed.
Hi, it's Michaela.
Michaela, my apologies.
That's fine. Um, I think it really means uh, the act and the behavior that you have that influences others and motivate others to pursue a goal and to work with others well. It's about motivation and influence. That's what I get from leadership.
Absolutely. Last one. Any takers? Any other takers on what is leadership?
I'd say influence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, all great answers, Mr. Edmund, Miss Morris, and Miss Robinson. All great responses because, again, leadership is influence, leadership is how we feel, leadership is how we lead. It's not about a topic, a title, my apologies. It's I always tell people, forget my title. Forget what I'm here. I always tell my ladies and gentlemen, I am just your leader. We are all young professionals, adults here to make the common goal. My job as your leader is to inspire you, it's to create that impact, it's to help you grow into that nutshell and make you become a better person. And it's about showing up each and every day and stepping into that passion of what you deem fitting. So people always ask me, like, so how do you know when to lead, how to lead? Again, leadership comes with experience. Obviously, you can't lead a crowd without knowing first how to lead or how you're going to lead, what kind of style you are in leadership, what grooms you as a leadership, what creates that leadership in you, or what distinguishes you from someone else in terms of you calling yourself a leader. I go back to the 5 C's. I don't know if you want to write those down: character, competence, communication, courage, and collaboration. I live by those 5 C's. So those 5 C's help me to remember every day when I'm leading a group, when I'm leading a ladies or gentlemen, when I'm leading someone. I'm reminding myself each and every day I must be in character because I can't lead my ladies and gentlemen. Again, I would refer to ladies and gentlemen because that's what we have to refer to at the Ritz. I can't lead them to be a 1% lady. Whereas if I come to work each and every day with my shirt not well ironed, my pants not well groomed, my shoes, but I'm telling them on the other end, hey, you need to be groomed. I can't tell them, hey, come up with creative ideas because now and that is me personally as a leadership. We all lead differently. I lead by the competence, the communication, the courage. So I'm a hands on leader. I am going to show you how to do that wow, how to create that momentum of the guess wow, how to write that email, how to become from a concierge to a supervisor to a manager. I am going to pull all of that out of you. Again, how do you do that? It's by emulating what you want to see. You can't show up in a way that you don't want them to show up. You can't show up in a way that you don't want your successors to show up. So you have to always display those 5C at all given times. Because again, a leader leads by example. And these are the pillars of some powerful leadership. You need characters to earn trust, competence to deliver, because you can't. Again, I was a former financial person before I moved into hospitality. I couldn't tell my team about finance if I didn't know finance. So you need to be competent in your delivery. And I urge each and every one of you who's growing into leadership within your roles, identify what it is that you do love, that you do have the passion for before you again embark on the leadership aspect of it. Perfect it. Take time to master it. Take time to polish it. Take time to become the best Titan in that field. Because when you start to lead, you don't want anyone questioning your leadership, your ability, your competence, your courage. Again, and that courage is not because even standing here and speaking to you, that courage, because as a leader, you're going to have to make tough decisions. As a leader, you're going to have to say things, do things that everyone don't like. Leadership is all beautiful on a title, but when that courage comes to make certain decision, you must be able to live within yourself and say, as a leader, these are my findings, and this is what I'm going to have the courage to do today. And again, I'm just going back on elaborating on the 5 points of my 5 C's of what I live by as a leader. So courage is the biggest one. You must have courage, and you must display that courage in the most diplomatic, most peaceful. You must let someone go in the most graceful way. You must make a decision that's gonna affect Mary, Sue, and Paula, but ultimately, that's the courage a leader has to display. We can't just be, and I'm a very passive, easygoing, but again, when it comes to that courage of doing it, we have to display it. So one would say, it's always what I'm trying to say. It's always that very thin line between being friendly and having the courage to discipline or establish or implement something. It's always one of my ladies just last week. I had to get a final written one. It's like, but we were just laughing outside. Yes, we were laughing about what you did over the weekend, but you always knew this still lingered. You knew this conversation was coming, and this conversation had nothing to do with the previous conversation that we were having. But it's having the courage as a leader to know how to differentiate it all, how to know your delivery, how to ensure that as hard as some decisions may be, that you deliver it with the most passion, even when it's a delivery that's not well received. But again, you give all your facts, your findings. That way, it's not as harsh of a delivery, if that makes sense. But again, we see the news each and every day, and we watch some of the decisions leaders have to make, and they're not easy. They're really not easy. And persons are always going to critique what you do as a leader. You may appease to one, but remember, you're never, ever, ever, ever going to make all happy. So if you're going into leadership to make everyone happy, good luck. Let me know how you do it. Because at the end of the day, everyone has a different benefit bracket. Everyone has a different thing that they want. Everyone has a different style of how they want it. And you, as the leader, you have to take all of that information comprehensively and then deliver on a common base. Not because Mary, who's your friend, liked it, Paula had a better idea, but instead you took on everyone's feedback, and as a leader, you did the right thing. And collaboration to build something greater with yourself and with your lady or gentleman or with the person you are leading. So one always asks me the type of different leaderships. That's my favorite. If some of you, I'm sure, know the different types of leadership that's out there. Transformational, inspire change and growth. Democratic involves team and decision making. Autocratic, take charge decisively. Servant, put teams and community first. Laissez-faire, gives full trust to the team. Situational, adopt style situation. We're gonna pause here for a little bit. If you want me to repeat it, I could repeat it so you could kind of see what leadership are you. Again, I'm a former Rotaractor, and when my Rotaractor years, I was just starting to climb my ladder in my career, which means you're at that stage as well where most of you are growing in your career and you're getting into that position where probably leadership positions already or entering that. So you must take some time to identify who you are. Has anyone ever done any leadership style exams? Anyone know their leadership type? Why they're that leadership type? Any leader that they admire? Why they admire them? Mixed leadership. Can anyone share any leadership feedback style? Do you want me to repeat it again, or anyone has any feedback on their leadership style, or which style are you? Why? Not all at once.
Hi, good day. Sorry.
Hi, James Watson.
My leadership, sorry, yeah. I'm more of an interactive leader. Um, I tend to, you know, be involved in whatever is happening. I I don't like to be the type of person who hovers.
All right. Anyone else?
Hi, good evening.
How are you, Mr. Nicholson?
Hi, this is Justin from the Rotaract Club of St. Andrew. I did our leadership training at my workplace, and it was similar to the Myers-Briggs test, if folks are familiar with that. where they, ask you a series of questions and then they give you,
Correct. Yep. Not at
a
all.
result. Yeah. I think it wasn't the Myers-Briggs test, but my leadership style was style as a motivator.
Okay.
And they said that really that relies on having a good team because really you're there to motivate, probably chart a course, but really you have to have a good team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I can also share. I am familiar with the Myers-Briggs. I was labeled as a mediator, but more recently, I did the DISC, that's DISC test,
Mm-hmm.
and it labeled me as stable and conscientious.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that I believe is due to my position in work. So I
Okay.
answer from a work point of view. So that's what it gave me.
Okay. Sounds good. And why do we believe that that is so important? That leadership style. Why do we think it's so important to take time to study and invest in? I've taken so many of these exams. I've, why do we think it's so important to nail and identify who we are before we go into the world and want to lead others? It's obvious, right? If anyone doesn't have feedback, but again, it goes back with being obvious. It goes back to absolutely being 100% honest with who you are. And because my leadership style is complete transformational, I am very inspiring. I am change inspiring. I'm growth inspiring. So whenever I hire a number two, I always hire someone with a very stronger um, leadership style, because at the end of the day, I know me. I know the leadership that I am. So I know I need to pair with someone that has the strength that I have and the weakness that they may have, I may complement. So when you're going out there and leading others, you have to be so strategic, because again, leadership is strategic, right? Leadership is just not waking up today and saying, I'm going to be a leader. Every move, every step, everything has to be aligned with the goal. Everything has to be so strategic. Like everything I do is strategic. Every individual I hire, every lead, like everything has to be strategic, because if it's not, are you a true leader? Are you being so passionate or so in depth in what you're leading that you take all this time to really study it? But because I'm more of a passive type of leader, that's more, hey, I know you have it in you, pull it out of you. Whereas my number two that I've hired, I know she has that more not emotional, but more of that, hey, the fact shows that you've been late 3 times, and unfortunately we have to let you go. Whereas I'm more of the nurturing leader. You've been late 3 times. Is there something wrong at home? Is just, do you need time off? Do you, and again, there's nothing wrong with either leadership style, because I'm just a more nurturer, because that is how I pull greatness out of people. But again, other leaders that stern, very stern, very very other aspects. Again, you give the person the full rope. I'm very laissez-faire. I give you the full rope. I'm not hovering like someone says, but come to me if you need all that you need. But again, always pair with your weakness or your strength, because it absolutely birthed the greater goal or aspect you're trying to achieve. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? Sounds good. Yeah. Again, I want it to be interactive, because again, it's a training session, and I always used to sell when they made the joke, Ms. Trump said, "Hey, I'm gonna cut off working from home." Like, fine, because I'm one of those old school, interactive, face to face. Because again, you get so much more interactive leading, especially with a leading group. But again, as aspiring leaders, as growing leaders, you have to be strategic. You have to be strategic with everything you're doing. You have to be mindful of everything you're doing. It's not just waking up today and saying, I'm a leader. Okay, I'm a leader and I'm leading this Rotaract group. How can I align everyone with the next call, the next year of the Rotaract year, to benefit the Rotaract ladies and gentlemen? Everything has to be strategic. Everything has to be, how do I place the right person in the right positions to be held, because they have the right strength for this. this person had. Again, you monitor. I read people so much as a leader because I need to position them right. Because we all can say, oh yeah, I'm good at writing, oh I'm good at public speaking, oh I'm good at, but when that time comes to deliver. So as a leader, I encourage you again, when you're leading your group and you need to place them all in the right place, it is your due diligence to monitor, to visualize, and to pull the greatness out of people. If you see someone has a public speaking that you need that position to be filled, but they're very shy about it, but you heard them speak briefly somewhere that they just don't want to pull it out. It's not dismissing that person now. It's now, as a leader, you're going to develop that person and have them the public speaking of the Rotaract. So it's all of this again, basically reiterating is leadership is not just waking up and saying I'm a leader. Leadership is just not saying I'm the boss, you follow me. There's so much more mental. There's so much more due diligence. There's so much more strategicness that goes into leadership because you want everything to flow simultaneously. You want everything to work as if no one's the working force behind it. I had two ladies at my employer that I always put them on shift together. And just last week, they discovered why for over 6 months, I've always had them on shift together. One of them are just the most quiet, but she is a brain. She is just absolutely, she could figure out anything. But the other, her mouth doesn't stop going, but she doesn't have the tenacity to just sit still and get it done. But two of them on shift together, I could sleep like a baby. But again, it's being that strategic. I don't put two of my hyper people on shift because I need someone to be the strategic one that's going to settle. If you get what I'm going with this. So it's all about sitting back, observing all that you need to observe to make it great. And then you keep working on Mary Lou, hey, pull this strength out of you, pull this strength. But everyone already have their strength. It's you as a leader to identify that and to put them in the best place. And I may keep making reference to those kind of examples because again, I'm in the hospitality world as well now. And I have to, and hospitality is not for everyone because it's a smiling game, it's a talkative game, and not everyone possesses that strength. But there's other strengths that hospitality can still use, but it's learning how to, again, pair them with the right person so it still works. So I don't realize that this person, the shy person that barely speaks, but how are they in hospitality? But it's pairing them with the right person that made it work and knowing who or what brings that greatness out of her. Whenever she has to do anything like wows and stuff, she beams. So I know that. I know once I give her that kind of task, I'm going to get the best version. So it's knowing those tactful way of how to get greatness out of people. So again, I've been in leadership for a very long time. Leadership is what it is. It's leading a group of people to a common goal. It's never easy, but you make it easy. You make it work by finding what works, by plugging the pieces, by staying up all night to figure out who can work with who. And it's that minuscule kind of detail that makes the grand thing work. It's that kind of minor detail that people overlook that makes it work, right? And that is your job as the leader. You're the one who has to lose the sleepless night to make it work and then come to work and train and grow and excel everyone. So for me, again, leadership starts now. You're in your prime to start taking over leadership role. I leave with you again my five top C's. Please do elaborate on them, sleep on them, go with them with you every day. And I reiterate again, being strategic, identifying what works, observing, making sure you understand what it is that you're leading, understanding who you're developing, how you're developing them, understanding what works to develop them, the best place to have them. Because I always tell my ladies and gentlemen, your future, I have your future in my hand, basically. Because if you not are not growing the next person behind you, if you haven't put that person on the right path and in the right map, are you doing the right job as a leader? Because as a leader, it is your job to groom the next person beside you, beneath you, and it is your job to pull and to make things work effortlessly, beautifully, and as if there's no kink there was ever any kink, and that person behind you should be able to do what you do even better than you. That is what a good leader is. You empower, you pour in, you give everything you have without any sense, any urge of, oh, they'll take my job. That is not a leader. So a true leader leads effortlessly. They lead with a smile, they lead with love. And again, I encourage you to be the best leader that you can. I hope you took some notes. I hope you can elaborate on some of the points. I hope they made sense in terms of how I position it with my career, and that you can run with it with your field. I open the floor for any question at this point. Anything that you want me to elaborate on before I close? Anything you want me to reiterate? Anything you want to ask at this point? I open the floor for questions.
I see here that DRR has a question in the chat. So he says, what tips or techniques do you recommend to learn about those who are you are leading?
Very good question, Yara. So I have a spreadsheet. I have a spreadsheet with everyone I work with. I have a spreadsheet. That spreadsheet has their strength, their weakness, and what makes them happy. And you don't collect all this data all at once because you're not asking them. I don't like asking people information because people can tell you whatever they want to tell you. But over time, you get to learn, whenever I ask someone to present, she doesn't say anything. Whenever I ask someone to draft me a proposal, he puts up his hand. So because I noticed Mary don't like proposal and Peter loves it, I'm gonna let them work together because she's gonna now feed off his strength, and then one day we're gonna meet together and establish a training. So for me personally, I have a running report on everyone I work with. It's if you ever see me, I'm like, I'm always around them, like, and I go back to my spreadsheet and I update it because I'm not gonna remember that. But if I have everyone's running information on that spreadsheet, I'm able to help them grow in the areas where they don't tell me they're weak in, but I've noticed that they're weak in. And I make that weakness training becomes a training that I just came up with today. But that's not a training I just came up with. I just realized, I would have been oblivious to thinking that's an area of training, but realizing that is something that's absolutely needed.
That's a very
If
good
that
idea.
answered your
Thank you.
question. Yes.
Thank you. That's so smart. I appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Thanks.
You're my pleasure. As a leader preparing next generation, do you always know who will be absolutely the likely successor? Does that affect how you lead the others? Oh, that's a very good question. Yes, you do know who the next successor is, but you you don't let that overpower because again, presently in that position, there's someone again, there's successor, but the person after them is the most aggressive, brilliant person. But everyone has their time. Nothing happens before its time, kind of thing. But you always again harness or groom or grow the area of not because you've been working here long enough you deserve the position type of thing, but no, you possess all the skill sets that's truly required, like all of it. So it's all a matter of having that conversation. um hey, you will or will not be the next successor, but again, you don't tell them that, but it's just a matter of still leading everyone to that point. And again, if the next successor you open, for example, like the interview process, let's say a position opens, you just open that position. I'm just speaking fast because of time. You open that position and you kind of still does the interview as an interview process, but you don't show any face to the next successor who you believe will succeed. But Mary, who's one step lower than the next person, really truly deserve to be the next successor. And I am the most, and this is where leadership of being honest and being integral comes, because you have to leave with the most integral parts of you. Because again, it goes back to courage. These kind of decisions are not easy to say, Mary, I know you've been here longer than Sue, but the successor is Sue. And saying that conversation in the most honest, with feedback, with my spreadsheet, with the detailing as to why this is the reasoning behind electing Mary versus. But again, no, at no time does you affect how you lead, but it's just if that makes sense. Sounds good. So if there's no other question, Okay, great, Odine. I'm happy. Okay, I'll look over. I'll give another 5 seconds if no other question. To the Rotaract family, again, I thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for expressing this amazing presentation, training with you, ladies and gentlemen. Leadership, again, it's by means the most beautiful thing because again, you get to groom and you get to truly grow and you truly get to do the right thing. But again, tips on motivating people, pull them aside, have a good chat, what they're doing and not doing. Hey, you're great at this. Today you're not, this week you're not yourself. Something's wrong. If you need time home, I am the most connected, personal. You have to be personal. That's the most motivating tip. I always tell people I don't give you a long speech of how to become the top 10. But again, you have to lead with the heart. That's how I motivate my ladies and gentlemen. I have to say, hey, what's wrong today? You're not yourself. You were great at this last week, but today, this week, if there's something at home, if there's something you're not getting into the company, what is it? It's just an honest chat. You have to be the most open and honest chat because that is what leaders are. You are my lead. I should be able to come and tell you anything and I should be able to fix it. Or I should be able to give you some time off if you're having issues at home. But again, too many times we lead with such force. People are dying at home and having, and we expect them to come and be great. We have to understand and lead truly with a heart. That's what I leave you with. Lead with a heart. Thank you for having me. I look forward to being part of you much more. I turn the baton back over to the moderator.
Thank you, Ms.
My
Gregory.
pleasure.
Now I will call on Tony Moy.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Um, on behalf of all of us present today, I'd like to extend our heartfelt thanks to our dynamic presenter for such an engaging and thought-provoking session. You would have assisted us to guide us to create our own definition of a leader, challenged us to reflect deeply on the 5 C's, and basically overall to broaden our understanding of the different types of leaders that we can become. Your insights were not only practical, but truly inspiring. We appreciate the energy, the clarity, and the passion that you brought to our discussion today. So once again, on behalf of everyone present, thank you for equipping us with tools to grow as better leaders. And we look forward to putting these lessons into action.
Thank you, Tony. Now I call on Joel to introduce our next speaker for this evening.
All right, good evening, everyone. I have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker. Okay. Mr. Ryan Bachu is a multimedia journalist from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. He has been covering climate change for the last 4 years, focusing on climate justice and the energy transition. After covering the Glasgow Conference of Parties, remotely producing a 6-part series, he traveled to Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, the Azerbaijan for the next 3 conferences. He has also written extensively on the climate change while moderating high-level panel discussions on the issue, including for the United Nations and at the Caribbean level. His main aim is to educate the Caribbean public on the impact climate change is having on their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ryan Bachu.
Your mic is not on, Mr. Bachu. We're still not hearing you. We're still not hearing you.
How about now?
Yes, great.
All right, I had to switch phones. I'm sorry. Um, it's just in keeping with how today is going because I prepared a lovely presentation for this, and then it just the laptop switched off and then the presentation wasn't there. So today is going very well. But I wanted to so first of all, thank you all very much for having me here. I just wanted to start by presenting something quite important. Let's take this phone off. Um, so leadership, first of all, you guys who have chosen to um, join this Rotary Club are leaders in your own rights. But I think that sometimes, me talking about leadership doesn't make me an expert in leadership. Far from it, actually. Um, I think leadership is a lifelong journey. I think even the best of leaders, let's just pick some names. Someone like, I don't know, President Obama, who I thought was a pretty good leader of the United States government. Um, Leadership for him continues to evolve even in his post presidency, and then with the changing dynamics of what he deals with. And for me, he was one of the better ones to draw an example from. And then you have people like Jeff Bezos, who is, doing so well in the corporate world, extraordinary leader in his own right, but it continues to evolve. And I say that to say that, Rachel did an excellent presentation. I'll speak for a little bit, but I just wanted us to understand, first of all, that leadership is really a lifelong journey, and we never really master leadership. We never really say, "Gosh, that person is such a great leader." There is always room for improvement. There is always room to get better in terms of leadership. But when it comes to leadership, I like to bring it down to three things in particular. And those things really amount to responsibility, vision, or what I'd like to term foresight, and the influence or action that leaders can have. And being in this Rotaract Club allows you all, every one of you, the opportunity to do all those three things. But there are also some pillars of effective leadership that I feel are necessary. And feel free to I'll just talk for a little bit, and then you guys can, whatever questions that you think I might be able to answer, you can bring it. But one of the three pillars that I really think that is lacking in terms of leadership, particularly in the Caribbean, is self-awareness. I don't want to talk too much about internationally, but particularly in the Caribbean, we have a lot of leaders. Most of you have corporate jobs, and you go to the corporate jobs, and your bosses are what they are, right? You see their deficiencies, you see their flaws in terms of leadership. And I amount that to self-awareness. I think before we can lead others, we really need to understand ourselves. That's not something that we have down in the Caribbean. A lot of a lot of our people don't tend to really understand themselves. What are their strengths? What are their blind spots? What are the challenges in themselves that they need to work on? And if we're lacking that understanding of ourselves, then how do we be able to help others in their deficient areas? How are we able to help others become better at their weaknesses? And I think that's a challenge. So I think one of the most important pillars that we ought to look at in terms of leadership is first we have to understand ourselves. We have to spend time with ourselves. In order to be good leaders for others, we have to first be able to lead ourselves. And we have to be honest. We have to have honest conversations with ourselves. We have to be open to learning about our own faults and our own flaws. So, I don't want to speak specific to just being a great leader. I want us to also look deep within ourselves, and this is I'm also speaking to me. We need to look deep within ourselves and understand what we need to work on. Because if we don't have that attitude and if we don't have that learning, then we can't exude the second pillar that I consider very important, empathy. So leadership isn't about, and we know it, leadership isn't about commanding. It's not about, just ordering people around. It's about connecting with people at a different level. Great leaders, as we always hear, great leaders listen, great leaders understand, great leaders are built in trust, right? We can build trust among people. Is it possible to be a great leader, but nobody trusts you? I'm not so sure. I think trust is a key pillar. And obviously, I think all of us know on this call that leadership and trust in particular, is earned, right? Nobody just trusts you just like that, right? Trust must be earned. And finally, the final pillar that I would like to speak about is courage. So leaders face hard truths and they have to make tough calls. And not every choice is going to be a popular one, but that's where courage comes in. So those three pillars I like to base leadership on: self-awareness, empathy, as well as courage. And then there are different styles of leadership. Foresight, like I mentioned, visionary leadership, servant leadership, democratic leadership, coaching leadership. And these forms of leadership, right? These styles of leadership are always important. So visionary leaders tend to inspire others towards a common goal, shared values. Servant leadership puts the needs of others first. Democratic leadership includes everyone in the decision making process. And coaching leadership sort of develops others for future leadership. So I think one of the things that you guys ought to do as Rotaract members is that um, you all ought to take the lead in perhaps planning a project, different times, obviously, leading a committee, mentoring younger people, representing your club at different conferences. But whoever is the leader of this club, I'm very familiar with how Rotary clubs operate in my country, Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm very sure it's similar to yours. What I would encourage the leadership, whether it's the president, whether it's the chairman, whatever other high titles that you have, what I would, because you're doing this wonderful initiative where Rachel was speaking and now I'm speaking, and this is wonderful, and so many of you, it's 82 of you on this call, so many. What I would suggest is that we give everyone an opportunity at different projects with different things that that they're doing to get involved in a big way. Leadership isn't going to be harnessed. Leadership isn't going to be developed. Leadership isn't going to be formed by one group of people taking the lead all the time. And yes, there are those who are confident, those who speak well, those who are extroverts, and those who always sit at the front of the class. Great, but that's not leadership only. What we need to do is we need to get those at the back of the class, those who are a little bit shy, those who are a little bit timid, those who can have the potential, but are not really confident in showing everyone or don't really care to show everyone that they have. We need to get those people involved as well. We need to get those people leading as well. We need to get those people speaking out as well. And every class is like that. Every group is like that. There are those who are up front, and then there are those who are relaxed back, and they're not the type to push themselves forward. And that's fine. Both classes are fine. But what I'm saying is that we need to get those people involved. And those things, I don't want you guys to really undervalue what I just said. The next project that is coming up, let's look at some people who haven't been leading and who would like the chance to lead, and let's put them at the forefront of it. The next committee that will be set up, let's have a look at the people who haven't really been outspoken and give them an opportunity if they'd like to be on that committee. If there are opportunities to speak to young people in the Bahamas, let's give other people. The 82 of you all are a lot, and I saw at some point on this call there were 90, so that's a lot, right? And then finally, if there are conferences, etc., in the Bahamas or around the region, let's really spread the opportunities for all members to fully develop their leadership capacity, because it's not going to be developed if they're not given the opportunities to develop. So I think that's a really key point. Also, what we have to be careful of, and it sort of ties into what I'm just saying, right? One group of people in leadership positions can lead to burnout, it can lead to conflict, and it can lead to imposter syndrome. All right. One core group of people, right, who may be willing, who may be bright, who may be at the top of the class, who may be confident, who may be great in all facets of leadership, right, can lead to burnout, it can lead to conflicts, and it can lead to imposter syndrome. And so that I just want us to also take into account that leadership really is should be it's about empowering others. I think that's what the smart people say. Leadership is about empowering others, and that's not just cliche. It's very real. If we're not empowering others as leaders, right? Then when the Rotary Club is 720, when this current cohort of leadership leaves, then what's going to happen with the club? Right? The club is going to have to close down. It's going to have to, it's going to become, you know, it's going to become almost non-existent. We need to keep honing people's leadership skills. So, what do I want people to remember when my turn is over? I think that's what I'm trying to get. I think that's the important factor in all of this, right? What do I want people to remember when my time as president is up, when my time as chairman is up, when my time as committee member is up? What do I want people to remember of me? I think those are very critical things. So one of the final things that I want to say before I open up the floor is that we have a tendency as humans to chase after titles. And I will put my hand up and I will say to you all, there is nothing wrong, right, with chasing titles. There is nothing wrong with aspiring to be president. There's nothing wrong with aspiring to be chairman. I have a joke. Well, nobody's going to find it funny, but I'll say it anyway. Um, so I'm Catholic. So the Archbishop was one time having a conversation with me. It was a private conversation, really, but I'll say it anyway. He was saying to me, he's saying, why don't you give the priesthood a chance? Because I've done discerning and everything, right? And I looked at him, and I'll never forget that. I looked at him, I said, Your Grace, I don't think you understand. If I am to go into the priesthood, I would want to be Pope, because again, because I like achieving titles, right? I love achieving titles, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to be president. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be chairman of this committee or chairman of the Rotaract Club. But what I also want to underscore is that you don't have to be president or chairman or chief executive officer or public relations officer or whatever officer titles there are to be a leader. In fact, some of the best leaders could actually be those without titles. And I think that's something that we often tend to forget. But I don't also, in the same sentence, I don't want to dim anybody's hopes. I want everyone, if you are aspiring to a particular position, not just in this club, but also at work, wherever you live, whatever you do, you know, aspiring is the motivation that helps people climb and climb and keep going and keep going. But it should not, as Pope Francis used to say, it should not derail us from being humans. It shouldn't inspire us. That should not be our own motivation. Because at the end of the day, let me be very honest with you. And this is something that many of you on this call would know. At the end of the day, right, leadership cannot be compartmentalized. Leadership cannot be compartmentalized. You cannot be a leader in your Rotaract club and you are aspiring for this position or you have this position and you're such a damn good leader in your Rotaract club. Everybody looks up at you and everybody messages in the WhatsApp group and say, wow, you do such a great job in planning and preparing. You're always there first and you're the last to leave, etc. But outside of the Rotary Club, right, you are just, someone who passes people straight who need help, right? Or your neighbor is in need of assistance and, well, that's their problem. Leadership really, it has to engulf your entire life. And that's why I think they say that how the best leaders are born leaders, because it's everything. You were born with it. Every fiber of your body is about service, and every fiber of your body is about people and not yourself, you know. But I think that it's important that we become people people who are leaders, not just within school, or not just within work, not just within the Rotary Club. I think it's important that in every aspect of our lives that we are leaders, that people can look up to us, whether you go to church or whether you go to mosque or whether you go to the mandir, whatever you do. I think it's important that in every aspect, every facet of our lives, that people look to us and say, wow, you know, he inspires me. Wow, he's someone who really takes this seriously. He's someone that leads, right? So it titles are great, but also, I think the real key in leadership is to I think the real key in leadership is to be a leader without titles, to be a leader in every aspect of our lives. And some of that may incorporate, how do I show up when things go wrong, right? Can I stay consistent even when no one is watching? Right? Do I lift others or do I just manage them? I think those are key questions that we all ought to ask ourselves if we want to be true leaders, right? Am I there when things are tough? You know, you know, can I stay consistent throughout the year? Even when the numbers are falling in the Rotary Club, am I going to still be there? How am I managing others? So I think leadership calls for a level of self-awareness. And I go back to where I started. Leadership calls for a level of self-awareness. Sorry, I think I might have been getting a call, but I could take that later. Yeah, leadership calls for a level of self-awareness that if we don't have that self-awareness, then we're going to end up in a position where we are trying to fix the deficiencies or lift the deficiencies of others without really ever, truly understanding that we ourselves have deficiencies that we haven't been working on. So I hope that this has been helpful. Like I said, I didn't come here to talk at you, right? Because I myself, in what little way that I do, I myself still have to hone skills in this artificial intelligence, digital, evolving world, on how I lead, be it in social media, be it in person, whatever. And I think that I'm just here to have a conversation with you, staying and reiterating some things that you all already know, re-emphasizing other things that you might have forgotten. But in essence, right, I want to conclude by saying that leadership is not exclusive. It's very much in you. It has to be in you, right? It has to embody you, and it has to come from inside of you. If it's just rolling off the tip of your tongue, then you're going to find yourself being an artificial leader, right? There are some times that you'll be a great leader, and then there are other times when your mood changes or when you're tired, or it will just come across as an act. And I'm sure that you all, if you think hard enough, that you could think about somebody who you say, wow, she's not really a leader. He's not really a leader, right? They just act the part for a little bit, and then they go back to being this person that they're not, right? I think that real leaders, it needs to imbue all of you from inside out. So it's a real pleasure to be able to present to you. Like this meant a lot to be able to have a conversation with you on the topic of leadership. We are all leaders in our own right, but we need to keep honing our skills. And I urge the Rotary Club. So let's give all of these 82 people, 77 people, how many ever on the call, let's keep rotating the leadership so that everybody develops. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bachu. Does anyone have any questions? There's a question in the chat.
All right, let me see if I can pull it up. Right. Right. A standard point for me from your presentation was that you conduct a life of leadership, but we also highlighted self-awareness and the probability of burnout. How does one establish balance and learn how to say no to leadership roles? That's such an important point, right? And from my own experience, right? You're welcome, Cynthia. Yeah, from my own experience, right? That is such an important point in the sense that when to say no, right? But I wouldn't only say no. I would suggest, right? Who might be best fitted for this position? Who might we be able to give an opportunity to that I can't take for myself because I'm busy at work and I'm busy studying for my master's or I'm busy studying for my doctorate. I don't want to be selfish and start something that I can't commit to as a committee member, et cetera, right? But who can we, first of all, you have to be brave, like you mentioned, excellent point. You have to be brave enough to say no, right? And then secondly, how can we or who can we look at to fill this position, give them an opportunity so that they themselves grow? I think those 2 points I would say would be my answer.
There's another one by Leslyn Mitchell. She asks, as an upcoming leader, usually aiming for a specific item or position helps to create a goal. However, sometimes it requires look outside at the bigger and remember that the person on your team are helping to achieve a common goal and desired outcome. So it wasn't a question.
Yeah, but that's a good point. That's a really good point. I like that point.
Okay, if there's no other question, I will now turn it over to Tony Moy.
Sorry, one last thing before Tony comes in. I'm gonna drop my my email address and my social media platform so that I could follow the work that you guys do, and you can follow me back if you wish. I'm gonna drop that in the chat soon so that we can connect on LinkedIn or the Facebook or well, I'm not on Instagram or TikTok, but yeah, we can connect and we can stay in touch. And I'd love to follow the work that you guys do, and you'll have my email as well in case you ever need a friend from Trinidad, or I'll be here.
Okay, thank you so very much. Good evening once again, everyone. Mr. Bachu, on behalf of the members of District 7020 present on this session today, we'd like to express our sincere gratitude and for such an insightful and engaging session. Thank you for helping us to explore the key pillars of leadership and for showing us how vital these qualities are in shaping us as effective leaders. Your discussion on the different types of leadership, the importance of getting others involved to harness their leadership potential, as well as the power of truly empowering others, has given us, practical and inspiring strategies that we can take to utilize forward in our various clubs and different capacities professionally as well. We truly appreciate the clarity that you brought to this session. And we just want to thank you once again for investing in us and for encouraging us to be better leaders ourselves overall. So thanks much.
Thanks very much, Tony. Appreciate it, and I'm really, really happy to have been here. Thanks very much to Nitika as well for inviting.
You're welcome. Thank you. Before everyone leaves, so I just sent a Google Forms in the chat. I'm going to ask that all of you that's here right now, please complete the form. It is very important, especially for training this year. We would like to know what kind of trainings that you guys are looking for, what are your expectations, and so on. So please do so. And this form will also once you complete it, you will also receive a certificate to say that you attended this training. So please do complete it, and I look forward to receiving all your feedback. Okay, have a great evening, and everyone. Is there anything that anyone would like to say before we leave?
Just want to thank you for putting this together, Chair. I appreciate it so much.
You're welcome. Well, if there's no one else, thank you, everyone, and have a good night.